Good day, guys. This is Claire Jane Fronteras, and today we're going to explain my created Excel program in solving design of square tide column and spiral column. For the design of square tide column, we will have this problem. Design a square tide column to support an axial dead load of 1,890 kilonewton and an axial live load of 2,300 kilonewton. Use FC prime 21 MPa and Fy 276 megapascal. So, as we can see, we have 1,890 kilonewton na dead load and 2,300 kilonewton na live load. FC prime is 21 megapascal and 276 megapascal na Fy. So, for the steel ratio, assume natin na we have 2%. So, it is 0.02. So, ang ideal value ng steel ratio is 1.5 to 3%. So, it has a minimum of 1% and a maximum of 8%. Yung gagamitin natin is 2%. And assume din natin na for the diameter sa bar, main bar is 48 mm and for the tide is 12 mm. Ayan. So, ayan, kompleto na. So, sa ating first, nakikita natin sa green na table, we have the 2001 NSCP code. For the reduction factor, it is 0.7. So, makikita natin yung PU actual na 6,556 kilonewton, yung gross area na nandito sa 508,718 approximate millimeter squared. And so, since it is a square, i-square root lang natin yan. So, mayroon tayong x na side, 713.25 millimeter. So, let's say x is 714 millimeters. So, we're going to calculate for the n na number of bars. So, n will be 5.634 bars. Let's say n is 6 bars. So, makakompute na yung spacing. So, the smallest value of this na 16 dB, 48 dt, and the last column dimension, yung saan dito sa kanila yung pinakamaliit na value, yun yung ating gagamitin na spacing. So, nakikita naman natin na yung ito, 48 dt, yung may pinaka-last na value. So, 576 mm. So, yun yung gagamitin natin na spacing. So, use 12 mm diameter lateral ties spaced at 576 on the center. So, that would be for the 2001 NSCP code. And for the 2010-2015 NSCP code, the reduction factor is 0.65 compared, so mas lesser siya compared sa 2001. So, for the actual PU, 5,948 kilonewton, the gross area na 497,043.48 millimeter squared. And the square root lang nito is yung one side ng ating square is 705.01. So, let's say x is 706 mm. And, ayun, makocompute natin yung n, the number of bars. So, it will be 5.51 approximate. So, let's say 6 bars yung number n. So, we will have now this spacing. So, alin yung mas pinaka-maliit na value nito? And again, it is 48 dt or 576 mm. So, ito yung ating i-consider na spacing. So, the answer now is we must use 12 mm diameter lateral ties spaced at 576 mm on center. So, that would be all for the design of square tied column. So now, let us move on to the design of round spiral column. For the design of round spiral column, we have this problem. So design a round spiral column to support an axial dead load of 1,800 kN and an axial live load of 2,330 kN. Use Fc prime 21 megapascal, Fy 415 megapascal for vertical bars, and Fy 276 megapascal for the spirals. So we have here the input values, this orange table in the left side. So according to problem, we have 1,800 kilonewton of dead load. And for the live load is 2,330 kilonewton. For the Fc prime, we have 21 megapascal. For the vertical bars na Fy 415. For the spirals na Fy is 276 megapascal. So again, we will use 2% of the steel ratio. It's because ito yung nasa gitna ng ideal value, which is 1.5% to 3%. So we will use 2%. So 0.02. Assume lang natin na the main reinforcement, let's say, we'll use 25 mm na diameter. Assume lang natin yung covering is 30 mm sa steel covering, and the diameter ng and yung DS will be 10 mm. So, ayan, kompleto na. For the green table, naka-indicate dito yung 2001 NSCP code. For the reduction factor, the same lang yung fee natin for 2001 and 2010 and 2015 na 0.75. So, let's first explain this table right here. So, the 2001 NSCP code, yung actual na PU is 6,481 kilonewton. We have the gross area na 394,148.59 millimeter squared. And since it is a round, so circle siya, identify lang natin yung diameter. So, ito yung diameter na 708.41 approximately. So, let's say D is 710 mm. And, nako-compute din yung N number of bars na kailangan, which is 16.1312. So, let's say we will have 16 bars. So, for the spacing, yung DC natin is 650 millimeters. Yung ating DC. Bakit 650? So, nakikita naman natin dito na we have 710 approximate yung diameter. So, we will have to minus, we can see here that our diameter is 710. So, let's less ng 2 times 30, which is 60 mm na steel covering, we will have the DC, yung inner natin na diameter na 650. Then, yung AC area is ito, 830.72. The gross area is 395,919.21 millimeters squared, and the AS na 78.54 approximate na millimeter squared area. So the for the minimum spiral ratio, we will have 0.0066128. So, pag nalaman natin yung mga values ng DC, AC, AG, AS, and yung minimum spiral ratio, makocompute na natin yung S na yung spacing na 71.96 approximately millimeter OC on the center. So let's say the spacing will be 72 millimeters on the center. So after that, we'll have to compute the S clear or yung pitch. Dapat yung pitch is dapat hindi bababa sa 25 millimeter and hindi lalampas sa 75 millimeters. So, how to solve this? We must deduct the S na na-compute natin sa ating DS. So, 72 minus DS na 10 millimeter will have 62 yung pitch millimeter. So, the final answer is for the cross section, we'll use 710 millimeter diameter. So, ito. For the vertical bars, we will use 25 millimeter diameter. Ito. Tapos, 16 bars. Yan. Yan. And for the spirals, we'll use 10 millimeter diameter. Ito. And meron siyang 72 millimeter at 72 millimeter spacing on center. That would be for the 2001 NSCP code. And for the 2010-2015 NSCP code, we will use, of course, the same reduction factor or phi. And ang actual niya na PU is 5,888 kilonewton. The gross area, so 358,084.69 millimeters squared. Then yung, di pala ito. Hindi yung diameter. Let's not be confused. So, since it is a spiral column, tapos round siya. So, diameter is 598.40 na millimeter. And then, let's say, 600 millimeter yung diameter. And mako-compute din yung N, number of bars, na 11.52. So, let's say the number of bars will be 12 bars. So, after that, makompute natin yung DC, yung inner na diameter. So, to compute this is 600, which is yung D na nakuha natin, minus 2 times this covering, steel covering. So, it will be 540 millimeter. So, we have to compute for the AC, the AG, and the AS. So, these are the corresponding values. For the AC, we have 229,022.1 millimeter squared. Gross area na 282,743.34 millimeter squared. And AS of 78.54 approximately na millimeter squared area. So, for the minimum spiral ratio, we have 0.0080314. So, after having this one, makakompute natin yung spacing na 71.096 millimeter on the center. So, let's say na 71 millimeter yung ating spacing. So, kukuha din natin yung S clear, which is the pitch. So, i-deduct lang natin yung DS na 10 sa 71 na spacing. We will have 61 millimeters. So, pasok siya sa ating condition, which is hindi bababa ng 25 millimeter and not more than 75 millimeters. So, it's okay. And now for the final answer. For the cross-section, we will have 600 millimeter diameter. For the main bar, vertical bars, we have 25 millimeter diameter and we'll be using 12 bars. So, ayan, 12 bars, and yung cross-section na 600. And for the spirals, we have 10 millimeter diameter, ito. Tapos, yung spacing is 71 millimeter on the center. Ayun. So, that would be all for the design of round spiral column. Thank you for listening.